So, Kari, let's talk a little bit about business projects and how to design a good business project. I mean, basically, why is it that companies come to the situation that now we need a project? What does the project do?
Well, a project is really a way to ensure that we take all the necessary steps and we take them on time and we measure our progress and we adjust the further steps according to the findings to get some results. If you don't have a project, it's so wishy-washy, you're thinking and planning but you don't get to the end, you don't get the results.
So basically, a project is a structured way to ensure that a development process or something like that will go, let's say, in a timely manner, resource-friendly manner, and that you're actually measuring and doing the right things at the right time.
Very clear, very simple. That's really the point. Matti Alahuhta, former CEO of Kone, has said that the most important thing in doing whatever you're doing is the execution.
Right.
And the project plan is to make sure that you do the things.
If we're looking at planning a project, then, I mean, obviously we would probably start with our target audience. I mean, is it a project we're doing with customers or for customers? Is it internally somehow doing something, an improvement or whatever it is? But I guess one of the main issues is how to define the challenge or the problem or the core of the project. What do you think?
Again, very good question, and I totally agree with you. It is really, what are we solving? And I see sometimes people working on a project and they forget the customer, they forget the benefit. So I think it's always important to start to think about what is the benefit for the end customer. Yeah. Even if it would be a project in-house.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't help the customer service, the customer feelings, then why are you doing it?
Yeah. And I mean, that's what has been said about Nokia, that Nokia forgot the customers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
So I guess it applies to even very large companies. So in a project, you always have to have the audience, whether it's internal or external, the target group in mind. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, if you want people to be engaged, and often there are other stakeholders as well, you have to be able to describe the approach or the solution. What's the project sort of aiming at?
Well, you should have a vision.
Right.
Okay. What is going to be better after this project?
Right.
And once you have the vision, then you can invite people to think about the solutions. So, okay, we want our customer service to be at this level 16 months from today.
Right.
And then you start to create, okay, how are we going to get there? Who do we need and all that stuff.
So then that ties into the impact, that you should have a clear idea of what the impact will be. Although, of course, you have to leave room for innovation and serendipity, so that if you know exactly what the steps are and what's going to happen, there is no innovation within the project. So often the sort of change and that the fact that change will bring change itself is something that you have to allow for in a project. But again, having the clear goals is, of course, quite important, I guess.
Yeah, and when I'm talking about the goal, it's, I think, something that you should always be able to measure.
Right.
So 5%, 10 million, whatever the number is, but so that you can measure, and then you can start to build up, okay, if that's where we want to go, how is this curve going to be? What's going to happen? And that way you can start to put it down in smaller pieces. We need to be at this point at that time.
Right.
We need to take these actions. So it's a whole set. Yeah. Points, actions, communication, all that stuff.
Yeah. Then, of course, resources are always important. Mm-hmm. Human resources or other resources. What do you need in order to implement the project? But I think maybe would that be easy to sort of vision through action steps? So sort of having the phases, what all will happen?
Yeah, and as I see it, it sounds sometimes stupid, but you really need to cut it down to small pieces, small chunks, like what's going to happen on May, what's going to happen in June,
Right.
and so on. And then you think about, okay, we need to do this lump of work. It requires that many hours.
Yeah.
We need this equipment. Where are we going to get it? How are we going to cover the cost?
Yeah. So you need to have a clear timeline. Of course, there might be changes along the way, but you still need to have a timeline.
Yep.
Often we use something called a Gantt chart when we're
Yes.
planning a project, so that you have a clear timeline with the action points. And then, of course, that sort of ties into the last point I wanted to ask, which is about monitoring and assessment. Because, of course, I guess there needs to be that tied into the project plan as well.
Absolutely. A project plan without, KPIs
Yeah.
and progress monitoring, assessment, what's going to happen, is not a project plan. It's a bag full of wishes, really.
Yeah.
So you need to have that there. You need to keep in mind. And when we talk about monitoring and assessment, one of the things that often is forgotten that I feel is very important is communicating the
Right.
results
Yeah.
so that everybody knows where we are going.
Yeah.
If you don't tell people how well they are doing, if you don't tell your organization, show your organization where you are going, how do they know what they need to do next?
Sure. And of course, regardless of the outcome of the project, you can always learn and should learn from it, because there will always be the next phase or the next project or whatnot. So often it's not so that, this is the end of everything and nothing happens after that. So there's always the takeaways.
Yeah, when we think about the project, when we think about the pilot, really the point is that we should forget the word fail.
Yeah.
We either succeed, sometimes we get better than we planned, or we learn.
Exactly. We learn more.
We learn more, and we know we'll be smarter the next time, because
Right.
there is always the next time.
Right. Well, thank you, Kari.
Thank you.